The crash on Kepler Station. Marcus Webb never expected his Tuesday to involve dodging plasma fire while carrying an unconscious alien through the burning corridors of Kepler Station. The mining outpost had been quiet for months, just him and the automated systems extracting rare minerals from the asteroid belt. Then the unmarked ship had crashed into Docking Bay 7, and everything went sideways. The ship was sleek, nothing like human vessels with their bulky armor and practical design. This one curved like a blade, its hull shimmering with an oily rainbow sheen that hurt to look at directly. Marcus had approached carefully, emergency kit in hand, expecting to find human survivors. Instead, he found her. She was small, maybe 5 feet tall, with skin that shifted between pale blue and silver depending on the light. Her hair was white as starlight, and when she briefly opened her eyes, they were the color of deep space, dark with flecks of gold. But it was the blood. That concerned him most. Purple blood, lots of it, seeping from a gash across her ribs. "Well," Marcus muttered, lifting her carefully, "this is either the best or worst thing that's happened to me in 3 years. The station's medical bay was basic, designed for human injuries, but blood was blood." He cleaned the wound, applied synthetic skin patches, and hooked her up to a nutrient drip. She was unconscious for 6 days. Marcus spent that time repairing her ship, or trying to. The technology was beyond anything he'd seen, but his 20 years as a ship mechanic had taught him that most things worked on similar principles. When she finally woke up, she spoke in a voice like wind chimes, soft and musical. The universal. Translator struggled with her language, producing choppy fragments. "You helped? Why?" Marcus was calibrating a plasma conduit when she spoke. He nearly dropped his tools. "Because you needed help," he said simply. "Name's Marcus. You?" "Zephyra," she replied, the translator finally catching up. "Of the Astral Confederacy." Over the next few weeks, Zephyra recovered her strength while Marcus worked on her ship. She was curious about everything, asking endless questions about human technology, culture, and motivations. Her people, she explained, were explorers and scientists, but they rarely interacted with other species. "Your people fix things that are broken," she observed one day, watching him repair a damaged thruster array. "Even when it belongs to strangers." "Seemed like the right thing to do," Marcus replied, not looking up from his work. "My people would call this inefficient, wasteful of resources." Marcus paused. "What would you call it?" Zephyra was quiet for a long moment. "Kind," she said finally. When her ship was ready, she prepared to leave. Marcus had grown used to having someone around, someone to talk to besides the station's AI. The silence of space felt heavier knowing she'd be gone. "Thank you, Marcus Webb of Earth," she said formally as she prepared to board her vessel. "I am in your debt." "No debt," Marcus replied. "Just be safe out there." She tilted her head, studying him with those star-flecked eyes. "You humans have an interesting concept of obligation. My people believe debts must be repaid." "Maybe that's why you're explorers and we're mechanics," Marcus said with a smile. Zephyra's ship lifted off smoothly, disappearing into the void between stars. Marcus watched until the navigation lights faded, then returned to his routine. Days blended into weeks, weeks into months. He told himself he didn't miss the conversations, the way she'd hum while working, or how she made even instant coffee taste better just by sharing it. But sometimes during the long shifts, he'd catch himself looking out at the stars and wondering if she was safe, if she'd found what she was looking for among the distant suns. He never expected to see her again. That assumption lasted exactly 18 months, until the day his long-range sensors picked up a massive fleet heading straight for Earth, and a single familiar voice cut through the static of his emergency. "Come, Marcus Webb," came the wind chime voice, tight with urgency. I'm coming to repay my debt. The fleet arrives. The armada that dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's outer defense perimeter was unlike anything in human military records. 17 ships, each one a masterpiece of curves and flowing lines that seemed to bend light around them. They hung in space like predatory fish, beautiful and terrifying. Captain Jake Morrison of the UES Defender had seen a lot in his 15 years of service, but nothing had prepared him for this. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Chen, was pale as she read the sensor reports. "Captain, I'm reading energy signatures that are, well, they're off the charts. Each of those ships could level a continent." Morrison gripped his command chair. "Any response to our hail?" "Nothing, sir. They're just waiting." The fleet had taken position just outside Earth's defense grid, close enough to be a clear threat, far enough to avoid triggering automatic responses. It was either a sign of respect or a demonstration of confidence. Morrison suspected the latter. Then the communication came through on all channels, in perfect English, with that distinctive musical quality that marked it as non-human. "Earth vessels, I am Fleet Commander Zephyra of the Astral Confederacy. I.E. Seek Marcus Webb of Kepler Station. Respond immediately." Morrison exchanged glances with his bridge crew. "Get me everything we have on this Marcus Webb." Within minutes, they had the file. Marcus Webb, aged 42, independent mining contractor, stationed alone at Kepler Station for the past 3 years. Clean record, exemplary service during the Titan colony crisis, preferred solitary assignments. "Sir," Communications Officer Rivera called out. "Kepler Station is responding." The voice that came through was tired but steady. "This is Marcus Webb. Zephyra, what's with the fleet? You trying to start a war?" The alien commander's response was swift. "Marcus Webb, you are in danger. My people have discovered a threat to Earth. The Devourers are coming." Morrison felt ice in his veins. The Devourers were legend, nightmare stories told by the few species humanity had encountered. World eaters, they called them. Creatures that consumed entire planets, leaving nothing but empty space. "Fleet Commander," Morrison interrupted. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. If there's a threat to Earth, we need to know about it." "Captain Morrison," Zephyra's voice carried a note of respect, "your people showed kindness to one of mine. We return that kindness now. The Devourers will arrive in 72 hours. Your world has perhaps 48 hours before they detect your population centers." Marcus's voice cut in. "Zephyra, you came back to warn us about monsters I've never heard of? I came back to save you, Marcus Webb, as you saved me." The next few hours were chaos. Emergency councils, scrambled fleets, evacuation plans that everyone knew were impossible. Earth's population was 8 billion people. Even with every ship, in human space, they could evacuate maybe 100 million. Marcus arrived at Earth aboard a fast courier, his mining equipment hastily converted into makeshift weapons. He met with Morrison and the other defense commanders in the Situation Room deep beneath Geneva. "She's not wrong about the Devourers," Marcus said, studying the tactical displays. "I've heard whispers on the frontier. Ships that disappear, colonies that go dark. We always assumed it was pirates or equipment failure." "What do you know about her people?" Morrison asked. Marcus shrugged. "They're peaceful, scientific. But Zephyra mentioned once that they'd fought something terrible in the past. Something that nearly destroyed them. I think the Devourers might be that something." The Astral Fleet maintained position, offering technical assistance and tactical data. Their ships were impossibly advanced, armed with weapons that could crack moons and shields that bent space itself. But 17 ships, even ships like these, couldn't protect an entire world. "We need to evacuate the core systems," Admiral Hayes declared. "Fall back to the outer colonies." "No," Marcus said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "That's not what humans do. We don't run. We make a stand." Morrison studied the younger man. "Against world eaters? With what?" Marcus smiled grimly. with what we've always used: stubbornness, creativity, and really bad decision-making. He turned to the communication console. Zephyra, can your people teach us to fight these things? Her response came immediately. Your weapons will not harm them, Marcus Webb. Your shields will not stop them. Then we'll make new weapons. Build better. Shields. Figure something out. There was a pause. When Zephyra spoke again, her voice carried something that might have been admiration. You would fight creatures that devour worlds? Lady, Marcus replied, we're human. We'd fight the universe itself if it looked at us wrong. The tactical planning began in earnest. Humans and Astral Confederacy officers working side by side, sharing technology and strategies. It was humanity's first real alliance with an alien species, born out of desperation and mutual respect. But as the hours ticked by, one thing became clear. The coming battle wouldn't just determine Earth's survival. It would define humanity's place among the stars. Preparing for war, the Joint Command Center buzzed with controlled chaos as human and astral officers worked together to prepare Earth's defenses. Marcus found himself in the strange position of being humanity's unofficial ambassador to the most advanced fleet in known space, all because he'd once helped a crash-landed alien with basic first aid. Zephyra had beamed down to the surface, the first of her people to set foot on Earth. She was exactly as Marcus remembered, though now she wore the flowing robes of a fleet commander, her silver-blue skin marked with intricate tattoos that seemed to shift in the light. Your planet is beautiful, she said, gazing out at the Alps through the command center's reinforced windows. It would be a tragedy to lose it. Then let's make sure we don't, Marcus replied. What exactly are we dealing with? Zephyra activated a holographic display showing creatures that defied description. They were massive, the size of small moons, with crystalline bodies that pulsed with hungry energy. Around them swarmed smaller forms, still larger than human battleships. The Devourers consume matter and energy, she explained. They strip worlds bare, leaving nothing behind. My people fought them for 3 centuries before we learned to hide, to avoid their attention. Admiral Hayes leaned forward. How do they choose targets? Population density, electromagnetic emissions, industrial activity. Earth broadcasts its presence across half the galaxy. To the Devourers, you are a beacon calling them to feed. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, Earth's leading xenobiologist, studied the images with fascination and horror. They're not really alive in any sense we understand, are they? More like a force of nature. Exactly, Zephyra confirmed, which is why conventional weapons are useless. You cannot kill a hurricane or negotiate with entropy. Marcus scratched his beard, thinking. But you said your people fought them for 3 centuries. You must have hurt them somehow. Zephyra nodded. We developed harmonic weapons that disrupted their crystalline matrices. But the cost was enormous. Entire fleets sacrificed to destroy a single devourer. Show us, Morrison said simply. The next 12 hours were a crash course in physics that shouldn't exist. Astral technology worked on principles that human science was centuries from understanding, but Marcus had spent his life making incompatible systems work together. He translated alien concepts into human engineering, finding ways to retrofit Earth's weapons with harmonic resonators. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, humanity's youngest weapons engineer, worked alongside astral technicians to modify every available ship. It's like tuning a guitar, she explained to her confused crew. Find the right frequency and we can shatter their structure. But it wasn't enough. Earth had maybe 300 combat-capable vessels. The approaching Devourer swarm numbered in the thousands. We need force multipliers, Marcus said during one of their planning sessions. Something that levels the playing field. Zephyra touched the tactical display, highlighting Earth's moon. Your lunar mining operations, the mass drivers you use to launch materials into orbit. Marcus's eyes lit up. You want to turn the moon into a railgun. The concept is crude but effective. Accelerate projectiles to significant fractions of light. Speed! Enhance them with harmonic resonators. Dr. Walsh looked horrified. You're talking about strip mining Luna in 48 hours. Better than letting Earth get stripped bare, Marcus replied grimly. The plan was insane, desperate, and absolutely human. Every mining ship, cargo hauler, and construction vessel in the system converged on Luna. Astral technology turned moon rock into perfect ammunition, each projectile tuned to the harmonic frequency that could disrupt devourer matrix structures. Meanwhile, Earth's cities launched massive evacuation efforts, not to other worlds, but to hardened bunkers and orbital habitats. If the battle went wrong, at least some of humanity would survive. Marcus found himself working 36-hour shifts, coordinating between human mining crews and astral engineers. His hands were raw from handling equipment, his throat hoarse from shouting orders, but he'd never felt more alive. You enjoy this? Zephyra observed during a brief break. The impossible challenge. It's what we do, Marcus replied, gulping. Coffee that could dissolve hull plating. Give humans an impossible problem, and we'll find 17 different ways to solve it, most of them involving explosions. She tilted her head. Is this why you helped me? Because it was impossible? Marcus considered that. No, I helped you because you needed help. This is because you came back, because you risked your entire fleet to warn us. Zephyra was quiet for a moment. My people think I am foolish. 17 ships cannot defeat what destroyed entire civilizations. Maybe not, Marcus agreed. But 17 ships plus one very stubborn planet? That might be enough. The evacuation of Luna's surface completed just as the first Devourer scouts entered the outer system. They were smaller than the main swarm, but still massive, crystalline. Structures that bent light around them as they moved. Contact in 18 hours, reported Lieutenant Chen. Marcus activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, all stations. This is Marcus Webb. I know most of you don't know me from a maintenance droid, but I'm the guy who accidentally started an interstellar alliance by being decent to a stranger. Now that stranger and her people are willing to die defending our world. I figure the least we can do is make sure their sacrifice counts. He paused, looking around the command center at human and astral faces united in purpose. The things coming for us have destroyed civilizations that were smarter, stronger, and more advanced than we are. But they've never faced humans before. They don't know what we're capable of when someone threatens our home. So let's show them why the galaxy should be very, very careful about making humanity angry. The response from the fleet was immediate and deafening. Humans cheering, astral officers singing their battle hymns, the sound of two species preparing to face the impossible together. The battle for Earth. The Devourers came like a plague of crystalline locusts, their forms twisting space, itself as they dropped out of hyperspace. Marcus watched from the command bridge of the hastily retrofitted battleship Determination, humanity's finest warship now bristling with astral harmonic weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. Jesus, whispered Captain Morrison, staring at the tactical display. There are thousands of them. The enemy swarm spread across the system like spilled oil, each creature the size of a city block, their crystalline bodies pulsing with stolen energy from 100 dead worlds. At their center lurked something that defied comprehension, a Devourer Prime so massive it registered as a small planetoid on sensors. Fleet positions, Morrison barked. Earth's combined forces formed a defensive line between the Devourers and their homeworld. 300 human ships alongside 17 astral vessels that gleamed like jewels against the darkness. Zephyra's voice crackled across the communication channels. Remember, target the resonance points, sustained fire on the matrix nodes, and whatever happens, do not let them reach Earth's atmosphere. Marcus found himself sweating despite the climate control. This wasn't mining equipment maintenance or negotiating with stubborn AIs. This was war against creatures that had ended entire civilizations. The first wave hit like a tsunami of hunger. Devourer scouts screamed through space, their crystalline forms trailing energy that made reality ripple around them. Human railguns opened fire, sending harmonic-enhanced projectiles at relativistic speeds. The first few shots went wide. Human. Gunners still learning to compensate for the way devourers bent space-time. Then Lieutenant Commander Kim's modifications kicked in. The targeting systems adapted, learning the enemy's movement patterns. Suddenly, the void lit up with impacts, crystalline structures shattering like cosmic glass as humanity's weapons found their mark. "That's it!" Marcus shouted over the tactical display. "They can be killed." But for every devourer that fell, 2 more took its place. The swarm pressed forward, their hunger palpable even through the vacuum of space. Human ships began taking casualties as smaller devourers latched onto hulls, draining power and life support with terrifying efficiency. The UES Yorktown went dark first, its crew's final transmission a defiant curse that would be remembered for generations. Then the Athens, then the Mumbai. Each loss hit the fleet like a physical blow, but the line held. Zephyr's flagship, the Star Weaver, moved through the battle like a dancer, its weapons carving precise paths through the enemy formation. Astral technology was art made deadly, each shot perfectly calculated to cause maximum disruption. "Marcus!" Zephyra's voice came through his personal comm. "The lunar array, it's time." Marcus activated the moon-based mass drivers, weapons that had taken 48 hours to build from mining equipment and desperate ingenuity. Luna's surface erupted in controlled explosions as projectiles launched at 15% light speed, each one carrying enough kinetic energy to crack continents. The first salvo caught the devourers by surprise. Massive creatures simply ceased to exist as harmonic-enhanced projectiles tore through their matrix structures. For a moment, the advance faltered. Then the Devourer Prime moved. It was like watching a mountain decide to go for a walk. The creature's gravitational field bent space around it, creating a distortion that made Marcus's eyes water just looking at it. Smaller devourers orbited around it like moons, drawing power from its massive form. "All ships concentrate fire on the Prime," Morrison ordered. The combined fleet unleashed everything they had: human kinetic weapons, astral energy arrays, and Luna's mass drivers, all focused on the massive creature. The attack splashed against its crystalline hide like raindrops on an ocean, barely scratching its surface. Worse, the Prime was learning. It began adjusting its approach, using smaller devourers as shields, while its gravitational field deflected incoming fire, and it was accelerating toward Earth. "It's going to reach the planet," Dr. Walsh reported grimly. "At current speed. Impact. In 27 minutes. Marcus stared at the tactical display, his mind racing. There had to be something, some angle they hadn't considered. Then he remembered Zephyr's words about her people's 3-century war. "Zephyra," he called. "Your people fought these things for 300 years. How did you finally drive them? Off?" Her response was quiet, almost lost in the static of battle. "We didn't drive them off, Marcus. We sacrificed our homeworld, overloaded our planetary core, created a harmonic cascade that destroyed everything within 3 light years." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of failing systems and distant explosions. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. "There has to be another way." "There is," Zephyra said. "But it requires someone to get close enough to the Prime to plant a harmonic resonator directly into its matrix core. Close enough to touch." Morrison turned to stare at Marcus. "That's suicide." "Yeah," Marcus agreed, already moving toward the shuttle bay. "Probably," but Dr. Walsh's voice stopped him. "Wait, the resonator frequency, we could modify it. Instead of trying to shatter the Prime, we could—" She paused, her fingers flying over her tablet. "We could tune it to Earth's magnetic field. turn the planet itself into a harmonic weapon. Marcus blinked. Turn Earth into a giant tuning fork? Exactly. But someone still needs to get close enough to plant the resonator. Zephyra's image appeared on the main screen, her star-flecked eyes serious. I will take the resonator to the Prime. Like hell you will, Marcus snapped. This isn't your debt to pay anymore. It is exactly my debt to pay. You saved my life. I will save your world. Marcus was already running toward the shuttle bay. Counteroffer. We both go. I'm good with impossible machinery. You're good with not dying horribly. Seems like a partnership. The plan was insane, desperate, and absolutely human, which, Marcus, reflected as he strapped into the pilot's seat of the fastest ship they had, seemed to be humanity's approach to everything. The final gambit. The modified shuttle. Aurora streaked through the battlefield like a missile with delusions of grandeur, weaving between devourer forms that reached out with crystalline tendrils hungry for the life energy within. Marcus gripped the controls with white knuckles while Zephyra worked frantically to calibrate the harmonic resonator in the seat behind him. Tell me this thing is going to work, Marcus shouted over the whine of overstressed engines. Theoretically, yes, Zephyra replied, her musical voice tight with concentration. The resonator will sync with Earth's magnetic field, turning the planet's core into a harmonic amplifier. The resulting wave should disrupt every devourer matrix within the system. And the downside? Earth's magnetic field will be permanently altered. Your planet will experience electromagnetic storms for decades. Also, will likely be vaporized the moment we activate the device. Marcus laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. Just another Tuesday, then. The Devourer Prime loomed ahead, a crystalline mountain that twisted reality around it. Smaller devourers swarmed its surface like parasites, feeding on the energy it radiated. Getting close enough to plant the resonator would require flying directly into that swarm. Behind them, the combined human-astral fleet continued their desperate holding action. Marcus could hear fragments of communication, ship captains calling, outpositions, damage reports, last messages to loved ones. The line was breaking, but it was breaking slowly, giving them the time they needed. Incoming transmission, the shuttle's AI announced. Captain Morrison's voice crackled through the static. Marcus, we're reading massive energy buildup from the Prime. Whatever you're going to do, do it fast. Through the viewport, Marcus could see the truth of Morrison's words. The Devourer Prime was beginning to glow, its crystalline structure charging with enough energy to crack a planet's crust. Once it discharged that power at Earth, nothing would survive. Zephyra, how close do we need to get? Physical contact, with the Prime's matrix core. The resonator must be placed at the exact center of its power structure. Marcus stared at the massive creature ahead. Its surface was a maze of crystalline formations, each one large enough to house a city. Finding. The core would be like navigating the world's deadliest cave system while being hunted by energy-based predators. Any chance you know where the core is? Zephyra was quiet for a moment. Then her hand touched his shoulder. Marcus, there's something I didn't tell you. About my people. About why I was on that scouting mission alone. Now's not really the time for secrets. My people didn't send me to explore. They sent me to find the Devourer's trail, to track them. I was bait, expendable. Marcus risked a glance back at her. What are you saying? I'm saying I've been inside a Devourer before. I know where the core is. The shuttle shuddered as they entered the Prime's gravitational field. Reality twisted around them, making the instruments scream warnings that made no sense. But Marcus held course, trusting his instincts and Zephyra's guidance. There, she pointed to a section of the Prime's surface where the crystalline formations created a spiral pattern. The core is at the center of that spiral, approximately 2 kilometers beneath the surface. 2 kilometers through solid crystal while being chased by energy monsters. Sounds reasonable. They landed on the Prime's surface with an impact that would have shattered any normal vessel. The Aurora's hull, reinforced with astral technology, and human stubbornness held together. Barely. Outside, the surface of the Devourer Prime was like an alien cathedral made of living crystal. Energy flowed through translucent walls in patterns that hurt to look at directly, and everywhere, smaller devourers moved like antibodies, converging on the intrusion. Marcus grabbed the resonator, a device the size of a briefcase that hummed, with potential. Zephyra armed herself with weapons that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. Together, they plunged into the maze. The interior of the Prime was worse than anything Marcus had imagined. Walls shifted and flowed. Reality, bent at impossible angles, and the air itself seemed hungry. Twice they had to fight off Devourer antibodies, Zephyra's weapons carving through crystalline forms, while Marcus provided covering fire with a plasma rifle that probably violated several laws of physics. "How much further?" Marcus gasped as they reached what appeared to be a junction between 4 passages that led in directions that didn't exist. "Close," Zephyra replied, but Marcus could hear the strain in her voice. Whatever this place was doing to them, it was getting worse the deeper they went. They found the core at the center of a spherical chamber that pulsed with the heartbeat of stolen worlds. It was beautiful and terrible, a crystalline structure the size of a building that contained the condensed life energy of entire civilizations. "Here," Zephyra said, indicating a specific point on the core's surface. "The resonator must go exactly here." Marcus approached the core, feeling its hunger like a physical weight. The moment he touched its surface, images flooded his mind. Worlds dying, civilizations screaming as they were consumed, the endless appetite of creatures that existed only to feed. But mixed in with the horror were other images. Zephyra as a child on a world of crystal spires, her people's desperate flight from the Devourers. The moment she decided to come back for him, knowing it might mean her death. "Marcus," her voice seemed to come from very far away. "The resonator. Now." He pressed the device against the core's surface. It adhered instantly, beginning its calibration sequence. Numbers flowed across its display, synchronizing with Earth's magnetic field 50 light minutes away. "How long?" Marcus asked. 30 seconds for full calibration," Zephyra replied. "Then the cascade begins." 20 seconds. The chamber began to shake as the Prime became aware of the intrusion. Crystalline walls cracked, and somewhere in the distance, Marcus could hear something massive approaching. 20 seconds. The chamber began to shake as the Prime became aware of the intrusion. Crystalline walls cracked, and somewhere in the distance, Marcus could hear something massive approaching. 10 seconds. The resonator's hum reached a pitch that made his teeth ache. Through the chamber's walls, he could see energy building, preparing to discharge toward Earth. 5 seconds. Zephyra took his hand, her skin warm against his. "Marcus, thank you for everything." 0. The harmonic cascade began as a whisper, then grew to a roar that shook the foundations of space itself. The resonator synchronized with Earth's magnetic field, turning the planet into a massive tuning fork that sang a note of pure destruction across the void. The Devourer Prime convulsed as the harmonic wave tore through its matrix structure. Around it, the entire swarm began to disintegrate, their crystalline forms unable to maintain cohesion in the face of Earth's song. Marcus felt the deck plates beneath his feet beginning to dissolve as the cascade reached them. In the distance, he could see space through holes that hadn't been there moments before. "The shuttle," Zephyra said urgently. They ran through corridors that were coming apart around them, dodging falling crystal formations and sections of wall that simply ceased to exist. The Aurora sat where they'd left it, its hull scarred but intact. Marcus threw himself into the pilot's seat as Zephyra sealed the hatch. The shuttle's engines screamed as he pushed them past their safety limits, racing to escape the dying Prime. Before it collapsed entirely, they burst free of the creature's hull just as it imploded, its massive form folding in on itself like a origami made of collapsed dimensions. Around them, the devourer swarm was dying, their forms dissolving into glittering dust that would drift between the stars for eons. "Aurora to Fleet Command," Marcus called as they cleared the debris field. "Mission accomplished. The devours are down." Morrison's response was immediate and joyful. "Marcus, you beautiful, crazy bastard, Earth is safe." As they approached the fleet, Marcus could see the celebration beginning. Ships were flashing their lights in patterns of victory, and he could hear cheering over the communication channels. "So," he said to Zephyra as they waited for a recovery ship, "I guess this makes us even." She smiled, that expression he'd first seen in a medical bay on a lonely mining station. "Marcus Webb, I don't think we'll ever be even, but I think that's what makes us friends." Outside the viewport, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, whole and safe and still broadcasting its stubborn signal to the galaxy. And for the first time in days, Marcus allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the universe was exactly as weird and wonderful as it ought to be. The debt was paid, but the friendship would last forever.